Before you listen, this isn't just a music review. This is a conversation about a woman writing her life into songs. So one day, her children and grandchildren won't have to wonder who she was. They'll just press play and hear her.
So imagine you're holding like a deeply personal, handwritten diary entry.
Right, something incredibly vulnerable.
Exactly. An entry about surviving a brutal custody battle.
Yeah.
And you hand it to an industry executive, really pouring your heart out. And they just hand it back and tell you, it needs a subtle EQ cut around 400 hertz.
Man, that is just, yeah, ouch.
Right. But welcome to the deep dive. Today we are looking at an artist who actively rejects that whole algorithm.
She really does.
Yeah, she wants to build a permanent, unvarnished emotional time capsule. We have this fascinating stack of sources for you today.
Oh, it's such a great collection.
It really is. We've got everything from her raw lyrics and deeply personal essays, technical industry reviews, and even single cover art.
All painting a picture of one person.
Yes, Misti Flowers. She's an indie acoustic, country, and Americana artist. And our mission today is to explore her journey and how she's using music to leave a fingerprint for her descendants.
Which is just a striking counter-narrative to everything we see in the modern music industry. I mean, if you want to understand Misti, you really have to look at her roots.
Definitely.
She didn't start by, reverse engineering a viral TikTok hook.
No, not at all.
She started on a piano bench. Her mother was a professional pianist, and her grandmother played the organ.
It was in her blood.
Exactly. Misti herself was up in front of a church congregation playing Amazing Grace on a melodica.
Wait, a melodica?
Yeah, a melodica. And when she was just 5 years old, music wasn't some, career strategy for her.
Right.
It was basically her family's first language.
Okay, let's unpack this right from the start, because that background is crucial to everything she does later.
Oh, absolutely.
She actually signed a major label deal, but instead of packing up and moving to an industry hub...
Like Nashville or L.A.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Instead of going there to get reshaped into some pop country product, she stayed right there in Oklahoma.
Which is such a bold move.
It really is. She did that to preserve her authentic, multi-genre sound. Weaving together country, blues, folk, Americana.
It's a very specific blend.
Yeah, it's like she decided to build a sturdy, solid oak family heirloom, whereas the rest of the music industry is just manufacturing, cheap, disposable, flat-pack furniture.
That is the perfect analogy. And that decision to stay, that is the defining characteristic of her career.
Right.
Misti isn't writing for arenas. She's writing to leave a permanent record. Her stated goal, which you rarely see articulated so clearly in this industry, is that she wants her kids, and eventually her grandchildren, to be able to press play someday and hear her speak her truth.
To actually know her.
Exactly. Not just her performing a character, but capturing exactly who she was at different stages of her life so they don't have to guess.
That's so powerful for you as a listener to think about regarding your own family.
It really is. And to see how she does this, we are going to trace her life timeline through 4 specific songs on her EP project, Right Where I Belong.
Which she's been releasing slowly, right?
Right. Yeah, very deliberately. Just one track at a time.
And to leave a truly honest fingerprint, you can't just document the sunny days.
No, you definitely can't.
You have to document the fires you walk through. And we see this vividly in 2 of the tracks in our sources.
Both of which are just incredibly heavy.
Let's start with I Became because, wow, it's a song about survival.
Pure survival.
The lyrics recount some intense struggles. She writes about courtroom halls, legal fights, and trying to raise 4 little lives on a tired heart.
Which is just devastating imagery.
And she explicitly mentions words that cut and hands that bruised.
It's as raw as songwriting gets, honestly, and the visual representation on the single's cover art perfectly mirrors that thematic weight.
Oh, the cover art is stunning.
Right. Misti is leaning against this weathered wooden barn.
Yeah, wearing a denim jacket.
A denim jacket, sunglasses, and she's just looking out over this sunlit, rolling landscape. It's the visual definition of standing firm after a devastating storm has finally passed.
Right. But musically, she doesn't just, sit in the sadness.
Not at all.
It's a driving country ballad in the key of A. But contrast that with the blues track. Enough.
Oh, that's a huge shift.
Yeah, this one is in G minor, a much darker, naturally melancholic key.
Definitely.
The lyrics tell the story of meeting someone at a local fair on a cold December day. She writes about ignoring red flags, trying to make it work, but ultimately realizing, and his slang kills me, Dreams of forever ain't got muscle when only one chooses to care.
That line is just brilliant, and that minor key is essential there. I mean, minor chords often feel unresolved to the human ear.
They leave you hanging.
Exactly, they leave you hanging. And she pairs that musical unresolved feeling with this amazing metaphor in the chorus. You can't fill a leaking vessel.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, she kept trying to pour love into the situation, giving and giving, while the other person just drained it away. A leaking vessel, by definition, can never be resolved.
It can never be full.
Right, it's structurally broken.
I have to admit, though, reading through the industry review, it made me genuinely angry.
Really? How come?
Well, you have this woman bleeding on the page about custody battles and bruised hands, and the reviewer delivers this incredibly sterile, analytical critique.
Ah, right, the technical review.
Yeah. They gave the song a stellar 95 out of 100, scoring higher than 92% of folk and country songs. But they are praising the four-on-the-floor kick drum for giving it an anthemic feel.
Right, they focused on the production.
Exactly. They're talking about playing in the pocket and suggesting a subtle cut in the 300 to 400 hertz range to enhance clarity.
I can see how that feels jarring.
It feels like judging the font of a ransom note. Like, does that obsession with technical equalization completely miss the point of her raw pain?
What's fascinating here is that the technical polish isn't erasing the pain.
It isn't.
No, it's actually the mechanism that translates the pain into power. Let's break down what those terms actually mean. A four-on-the-floor kick drum is a steady, relentless beat on every single quarter note. Boom, boom, boom.
Like disco, almost. Or just a driving march.
Yeah, more like a march in this context. It's the sound of a heartbeat when you're running. And playing in the pocket means the musicians are locking into that rhythm so perfectly that your brain doesn't have to work to find the groove. You just feel it in your chest.
So it's essentially weaponizing the rhythm.
Precisely. The reviewer points out the lyrical conciseness of the main hook. I didn't break, I became...
Such a strong line.
Right, so when you take a profoundly painful diary entry and pair it with a relentless heartbeat rhythm that sits perfectly in the pocket, it stops being just Misty's private suffering.
Oh, I see.
It becomes a universal, triumphant anthem. And that technical critique about the 300 to 400 hertz range...
Yeah, the subtle cut thing.
Right, that specific frequency range is where audio gets muddy. It's where the sound builds up and literally masks the human voice.
Wait, really? So it hides the vocal?
Exactly. By subtly scooping that out, the engineer is literally clearing the mud away, so Misty's voice, her actual truth, can pierce right through to the listener.
Wow. That completely flips my perspective on it.
It's all about clarity.
The polish isn't diluting the message at all. It's sharpening the spear. It's giving her survival story the structural integrity it needs to reach other people.
The technical precision is just the vehicle. It makes the fingerprint larger and more indelible.
So the kick drum polish acts as like armor to help her survive that acute, sharp trauma.
Yes.
But once the immediate fire is put out, we transition on her timeline to a completely different, quieter kind of ache.
A very relatable ache for a lot of people.
Definitely. It's the chronic slow motion loss of watching your kids grow up.
Yeah.
And that brings us to the song Still My Baby Blues and the personal essay she wrote alongside it, titled Why I Wrote SMBB.
Oh man, if you've ever had to care for a child, the honesty in this essay will stop you in your tracks.
It's so intense.
She talks about how she started babysitting when she was 11. You know, changing diapers, making bottles, so she thought she knew what to expect.
Right, she felt prepared.
But she writes that absolutely nothing prepares you for the sheer terror of actually parenting your own.
She is so brutally candid about her anxiety as a young mother. Like, she realized she was still growing up herself.
Yes, that realization is terrifying.
And because she wanted to shield her children from the trauma she had experienced in her own past, her coping mechanism was to just overcompensate.
Which makes total sense.
She held them constantly. She admits she was slow to discipline because she was terrified of being the source of any pain for them.
It's a very common, very human reaction to past trauma. You try to be the absolute shield for your kids.
But you can't be everything.
Exactly. She recognizes now that wanting to be everything for them was an impossible burden. I mean, you are trying to figure out how to navigate your own unresolved issues while simultaneously being the foundation for a brand new human being.
So what does this all mean for her music? To me, listening to this track, it's like trying to tune a guitar while you are actively playing a solo on stage.
That is a great way to put it.
You are desperately twisting the tuning pegs, trying to figure out how to be an adult while simultaneously trying to play this beautiful, flawless melody for your kids so they don't hear the dissonance of your own anxiety.
And that dissonance is exactly what she captures in the song. Delta Blues Groove.
Misty here. If you're enjoying this deep dive into my life and musical history, I'd like to invite you to subscribe to the channel. Every song here is a story about my life. Share my journey by liking this podcast and clicking the bell. Thank you.
Which usually means something pretty gritty.
Right, but instead of singing about a broken heart or a lost job, the lyrics are pure, concentrated maternal nostalgia. She longs for the very things that used to exhaust her.
The imagery she uses is so specific that it hurts. She sings about washing size 60 Garanimals pants.
Yeah.
Fussing over a missing sock and, seeing dirt on their Sunday shoes. She misses those 2 a.m. wake-ups holding a sick child.
Which at the time is just exhausting.
It's awful at the time. But she is mourning the absolute chaos that used to overwhelm her.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, there is a profound piece of wisdom in Misty's essay that anchors her entire philosophy as an artist.
What does she say?
She writes, "We trade watching them as they are becoming for watching who they became."
Wow. Let that sink in for a second.
Yeah. Think about the linguistic connection there. The previous song we discussed was I Became.
Right, her survival anthem.
Exactly. It was about her own painful, necessary growth through trauma. Now she's watching who her children became.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Personal growth and watching your children grow up both require a beautiful, inevitable kind of loss. You literally have to mourn the child in order to celebrate the adult they turn into.
It's a surrender to the passage of time. She actually sings in the track, "I may be missing your Sunday shoes, but I'm proud of who you grew into. Same wild heart in a taller frame."
That is just incredible writing.
It really is. And it's not a retrospective written 30 years after the fact.
Yeah.
You're hearing the raw emotion of the exact moment the house gets quiet and she realizes the chaos is gone.
Which is a heavy transition. I mean, you survive the courtroom, you survive the sleepless nights, you let your kids go, and then what? Where do you go from there?
That psychological shift leads us perfectly into the present moment on her timeline. Letting go of the chaos brings her to a place of total, grounded contentment.
Which brings us to the EP's title track.
Yes, right where I belong.
This is where we see her fully rooted in Oklahoma, finding peace not in the grand achievements of the music industry, but in the immediate physical world around her.
You can almost smell the air when you read these lyrics.
Okay.
She paints this incredibly vivid pastoral scene.
She really does.
She's singing about hunting for morels right after a spring rain. She's watching spotted fawns playing by a bubbling stream, baking bread for dinner, and watching the wild grasses bend in the Oklahoma wind.
It's just so vivid.
And in the bridge, she makes this ultimate declaration. This oaky heart's made of red earth clay.
It is a stunning piece of songwriting, but the contrast with the industry's perspective is fascinating here. We talked about how the song I Became scored a 95 out of 100.
Right, the stellar score.
Well, the objective industry review for Right Where I Belong gave it a much lower score, a 77 out of 100.
That is a huge drop. Yeah. Why the disparity? I mean, what did they dislike?
Well, the reviewer praised the sincerity. They even compared her raw storytelling to legends like John Prine and Gillian Welch.
Which is huge praise.
Massive praise. But musically, they docked it heavily for lacking professional polish. They called the mix monocentric, meaning it lacked stereo width.
Okay, monocentric.
Yeah. They said the vocals were dry and boxy, and they noted it didn't have the competitive loudness needed to stand out on streaming platforms like Spotify.
Here's where it gets really interesting for me, because this feels like the thesis statement of her whole career. The track with the lowest technical score is actually the purest representation of what she is trying to do.
I completely agree.
Think about those critiques. A monocentric mix, what does that actually mean for you as the listener?
It's a great question. So, in a modern pop country song, the mix is incredibly wide. The guitars are pan hard to your left and right ears. The drums surround you. The synthesizers swirl around your head.
Very immersive.
Right. It's designed to sound larger than life. It creates the illusion that you are standing in the middle of a massive arena.
Yeah.
A monocentric mix, however, means almost all the audio information is coming right down the center. It doesn't surround you, it sits right in front of you.
Like a single person sitting across from you on a porch.
Exactly. And the reviewer called the vocals dry.
What does that mean? Like no emotion?
No. In audio engineering, wet means adding reverb or echo to make a voice sound smooth and angelic, like you're singing in a massive cathedral.
Ah, Got it. So dry is the opposite.
Right. A dry vocal has zero artificial space added to it. It sounds like the singer is uncomfortably close, right next to your ear. You hear the breath, you hear the friction of the vocal cords.
So if her ultimate mission is to leave a fingerprint for her grandchildren, a massive, reverb-drenched arena anthem works entirely against her.
100%.
The dry, unpolished vocal over an acoustic guitar isn't a flaw. It's the exact sound of an oaky heart made of red earth clay.
If you oversand a piece of solid oak to make it perfectly smooth, you eventually erase the grain of the wood.
That's beautifully said. For Misty, the rawness is the proof of life. It's the friction of the fingerprint itself.
Right.
Sure, she wants her music to be successful. She'd love to see it placed in film or TV where that raw emotion matters. But her primary goal isn't fleeting playlist placement.
Her primary goal is permanence. She's making sure that 50 years from now, her descendants don't just know what she sounded like, they know what it felt like to sit on the porch with her.
It's just incredible. To bring this whole journey together for you listening, we've traced a timeline that actively defies how we are told to live and create right now.
We really have.
We started with a 5-year-old girl learning the language of music on a melodica in church. We walked with her into the fire, through the courtroom halls and legal fights, where she was forced to forge her own armor.
The I became Era.
Yes. Then we sat with her through the terrifying 2 a.m. anxieties of parenting, learning to mourn the missing dirt on Sunday shoes.
The transition from chaos to quiet.
And finally, we arrived with her on that Oklahoma porch, finding total peace baking bread and watching the wild grasses bend.
It is the documentation of a life fully lived, captured intentionally without the artificial gloss that the world usually demands of us.
And it connects so deeply to exactly what we're all doing, whether we are musicians or not. I mean, we are all living through these phases. We all have our acute traumas we have to survive. We all have to navigate the slow-motion ache of watching people we love grow up and change.
It's the universal human experience.
And hopefully, eventually, we all find that place where we can just sit on the porch and be right where we belong.
But going through those phases raises an incredibly important question.
Oh.
Yeah, it's something I think you really have to deeply consider after looking at Misti Flowers' approach to her life's work.
What's that?
Think about the mechanics of how we exist today.
Okay.
We live in an era where our daily communication consists of, fleeting text messages, 24-hour disappearing stories on Instagram, and heavily curated, polished feeds.
Right. Everything is a highlight reel.
Exactly. They are the equivalent of those reverb-drenched wide stereo mixes. We are constantly editing out our own flaws.
Wow, that's so true.
So if you strip all of that artificial space away, what is the actual unvarnished fingerprint you are leaving behind? If your grandchildren 50 years from now wanted to know who you really were, your actual fears, the fires you walked through, your quiet moments of contentment, what would they look at?
That is a staggering thought.
Isn't it?
Are we just leaving behind a digital trail of disposable flat pack furniture, or are we carving something real?
That's the question we all have to answer.
Maybe we all need to take a page out of Misty's book.
I think we do.